Hi, this is AC's 8-Bit Zone. If you've ever watched my channel, you'll know that I'm always dabbling with old 8-bit retro computers. So today I have a Color Computer 2 that's running hot. And I'm going to use a DC to DC switcher and power a small 5-volt fan. And it's going to cool the main board off and the power supply considerably. Now you can apply this to virtually any old 8-bit computer. Many of them ran hot, some of them hotter than others. They often had lossy power supplies, so it was common for the transformer to be in the case, or to have losses from a linear regulator that's on the main board. You'll know if you have that situation because you may see some darkening marks on the plastic case. And anyway, this is a machine that I'm going to be doing a lot of testing with, swapping boards in and out, and testing lots of chips in this case. So I want this one to run cool, and I want it to last for a long time. It's already almost, is it 40 years old? It's close to 40 years old. And I'd like it to go for another at least 10 or 20 years. So cooling it down will help it considerably with its lifespan. So again, you can do this on any machine, whether it's an Apple or a Commodore, Atari, TRS-80, whichever. And you can apply a similar technique to this to almost any of them. So let's go ahead and get started.
Play a game.
Okay, let me give you the tour of this particular Coco 2. This is one of the oldest kind of Coco 2s. You can tell it has the melted keys. Well, they call this the melty keyboard. The keys have this sort of low melted look. Okay, so you may have noticed this funny space bar. I'll put a link to the video where I 3D printed that and repaired it if you're interested in seeing that. And also here's the Super 64 game pack. I have several images on here, different cartridges, different cartridge games, different HDB DOSes. This one is one. I think these switches are in a mode for HDB DOS at the moment, for drive wire. And I'm going to be doing a lot of testing, like I said, of Coco DV boards. If you are curious about what Coco DV is, I'll put a link up above to that series. And here's a ZIF socket. I had to relocate this relay to make room for the ZIF. This is the cassette motor relay. This is the warm area. The transformer runs very hot, or warm, but this linear regulator runs really hot. That's burning my finger just touching it for a moment. So let's first see. Let's see. This has been plugged in. It's been turned on for a few minutes. Let's just see how hot it is before and after. Okay, 59.2, 59 holding. Okay, I'm going to place it on a flat surface and get a consistent temperature reading this way. Okay, again, I'm getting about 60 degrees C. Okay, let's go with 60 and see what the change is after the mod. Okay, what are we going to need for this? First of all, this is a 5-volt fan that I've used before. I bought a box of a few of them. It's a 5-volt DC fan, but it can run at lower voltages. And the reason I'm using a DC to DC converter that has an adjustable output voltage is because by running this a little bit lower voltage, we can slow it and make it a little bit quieter. So we can sort of dial in our level of cooling versus noise in, in that trade-off. And this is the DC to DC converter that I'm using. This is a really common module. This is based on the LM2596, and the output voltage is adjustable. So I'm going to be picking up something in the neighborhood of 10 or 12 or 13 volts DC off the main board, adjusting this down to about a 5 volt output, but I can adjust it lower if I'd like to make the fan run a little slower and a little quieter. You'd really appreciate it if you did this mod without the adjustable voltage feature and you heard how loud it actually is at 5 volts. So let's turn this off, unplug it. Now, let's pick a location for the fan. Ideally, I would like to have placed it here and pull in the cool air, pass it over the transistor and the transformer and out the top. However, it's just not quite low enough profile for the case to come down and close. So there's a little bit of interference right here. So my second thought was, well, maybe over here, maybe mount it on double-sided sticky tape and blow air this way. But I don't really want to have it in the way of any of these socketed chips. So I think what I'm going to do is actually mount it underneath the keyboard. So if you look here, this could go right there, and there's all kinds of room underneath the keyboard from here to the bottom of the case. And with the fan openings pointed downward, I can draw cool air from below the case and push it in a direction generally toward the transistor heatsink. So I think that's what I'm going to do, and let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so I'm thinking something like that. Yeah, that's good. It's going to be directed directly toward the heatsink and the transformer. That should be good. I have some double-sided tape that I use for a lot of projects like this. If that's not enough tape, I'll come back and add some more later. Okay. So looking at where that's landing, the tip of the fan is almost touching the, I think that's the salt chip. So I'm going to move it, I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Okay, there's lots of room between the fan and the ICs now, so that should be good. Okay, there are a couple of diodes here that might be good. Okay, there's minus 14 volts. Minus 14. These large diodes are 12.3. And this one is also 12.3. This cap should be 5 volts or, okay, that's 12.3 also, and minus 13.6. Okay, C3 on this board looks like a good place to get about 12 volts. So C3 it is. While the soldering iron is warming up, I'll get a couple of wires here. We're going to pick up 12 volts approximately. Power's back off of the board and it's unplugged, by the way. This little regulator is a switcher, so it has a little bit less losses than a pure linear regulator would have. There's a couple of input terminals, a couple of output terminals. And this is such a simple and quick mod that you can do to your computer that will benefit it so much. There's really no reason to not go ahead. Okay, let's power it on and adjust the output. Okay, the LED tells me that it's getting power. Let's see what the output is. Okay, 11.8. Okay, and now I'm going in the right direction. How about we just start at around 5 volts or a little under. .7, 4.8, something like that should be good for starters. Okay, now some more double-sided tape. Well, and let's actually connect the wires from the fan. I'm just I'm just too lazy right now to even go get the wire strippers, so just using a blade to cut that off. That's good enough. Every now and then it can be therapeutic to do just a little bit of simpler soldering. Okay, and once again, how about we apply some power and see how it works. Okay, here we go. Power on. Okay. And I would rate that noisy, but not too annoying. So I think I'll go ahead and throttle down just a little bit. Okay, it's quieter. It's really moving some air. And it doesn't take a lot of airflow to make a big difference when there's a heat sink for moving the air across. Okay, let's start there. Out of curiosity, let's see what output voltage that ended up being. I think I saw 3.7, yes, about 3.76 volts. .75, that's good. Okay, power off again, and let's put it all back together. I need thicker tape or more pieces of tape. Better. Reattach the keyboard flex strip. Okay. Plug it in, power back on. Okay, I hear the fan, and let's see see how the temperature measures. .6 and not changing. So far I can feel that the air is stirring, and so far I can feel that the air is stirring in this general area. So I'm going to let this warm for about 10 minutes and then come back and get a measurement.
20 minutes later.
Okay, and I'm back. That was about 20 minutes of runtime, but I could tell before I even walked away that this was a good improvement, because just touching it, it wasn't even getting warm. Even now, it's okay. The heatsink pins are cool to the touch. They're actually about the temperature of my hand, maybe cooler. And the transistor itself is slightly warmer than my skin. So, I mean, we really don't even need to get a measurement, but let's just see for fun. 26 degrees C. So what was that? From 60 or 62 degrees C down to 26. I mean, barely above room temperature. It's probably about 22, 23 degrees C in the room. I mean, that's just outstanding. And again, this is a really simple mod. You can do this on a Saturday morning or one evening. And it's not going to take a lot of time, and you're going to get a big improvement for very little effort. Okay, I'm just going to let this run for a while and see if I ever notice any hot spot on top of the case. But before, after just a few minutes of runtime, you could lay your hand here and just feel the warmth from the plastic. But I think this is going to be a good improvement. It should add lots of life to those capacitors, power supply, and transistors, and even the ICs inside the case that aren't going to be getting as hot now from the ambient temperature. So go out and get a DC to DC switcher in the link below, and a DC 5-volt fan, and add years of life to your old retro computer. I'll add links down below, and there's really no reason not to do this right away before you put any more wear into your ICs and power supply. So I hope that was helpful for you, and it was really fun and a relaxing way to do something with a little less stress and some easy soldering. So until next time, see you then.